And welcome back, everybody. Rusty here with the Rugby Review. And this week, we're going to be going through round 2 of the Investec Champions Cup. And without further ado, we're just going to jump right into it. So, again, this week was round 2. So here we have round 2, pool 1. And a couple really good games this week here for pool 1. So game 1 was between Hollywood Bets Sharks and Saracens. We had the Sharks 28, Saracens 23. Game 2 was between Claremont and Sale Sharks. Claremont 14, Sale 35. And the last game for Pool 1 this week was Glasgow versus Toulouse. We have Glasgow 28, Toulouse 21. So the game we're going to be going over this week in a little more detail is Game 3, Glasgow-Toulouse, and the real main reason for it is I had the opportunity to watch it this past week, so I'll be able to talk on it a little bit better than the Sharks-Saracens game. So here we have the Glasgow-Toulouse stat line here. Now, if you got the chance to watch this game, you will know that this was a tale of two halves. Toulouse was the absolute dominant team in the first half, put all of the offensive pressure on Glasgow and ended up scoring 3 tries and was up 21-0 at halftime. Complete 180 in momentum, and Glasgow in the second half was the team putting all of the offensive pressure on Toulouse. Glasgow ended up scoring 4 tries, taking the lead, and winning the game. Now, unfortunately, you don't really see that momentum shift between the first half and the second half with the stats here, but what you will see is Toulouse had to put in a very, very large defensive shift, and once Glasgow got their momentum rolling, they were a very strong team offensively. So possession and territory kind of flip-flop who's in favor. Possession does favor Glasgow, but territory does favor Toulouse a little bit, but neither is heavily skewed towards one team or another. Now, when we look down at tackles made, this is where we're going to see that Toulouse had to put in a very, very big shift defensively. Not that Glasgow didn't, but Toulouse had 221 tackles made versus 153 for Glasgow, so Glasgow had to make a lot of tackles and play a lot of defense themselves, but it just so happens that Toulouse had to put in a much bigger shift defensively. Now, if we look down a little further at post-contact meters, this is where we're going to see when Glasgow finally got the ball rolling that they're just a better team offensively. So again, you can see that with the post-contact meters here, where Glasgow has 376 post-contact meters made to 249 for Toulouse. And as we look down a little further, Glasgow had some very strong moments defensively. 12 turnovers won for Glasgow to just 6 for Toulouse. Now, one thing that did hurt Toulouse a lot was handling errors. During the course of the game, 20 turnovers lost for Toulouse to just 13. I guess not just 13, but when it's compared to 20, 13's a lot less than 20. So, Toulouse wasn't really helping themselves and not maintaining control of the ball. But, good on Glasgow for being able to completely change this momentum in the second half, put Toulouse under all the pressure, make the comeback and win the game. So here, next we have, this is the current standings for Pool 1 after the first 2 weeks. Glasgow, top of the table, 2 wins, no losses, and Glasgow got bonus scoring points in each of the first 2 weeks. Underneath Glasgow follows Saracens, Toulouse, Toulousain, Sale Sharks, Hollywood Bets, Sharks, and then Claremont. So as it stands, Hollywood Bets, Sharks, and Claremont are going to be dropping down into the Challenge Cup, and the top four are going to be moving on to the knockout rounds, but still 2 weeks left, still a lot of rugby to be played, so we'll see how everything shakes out over the next 2 weeks, whenever the next 2 rounds are. Next we have round 2, pool 2. Couple of big blowouts here. So the games for pool 2 was this week. It was Castra versus Edinburgh. We have Castra 33, Edinburgh 0. Game 2 was another shutout. We have Munster versus Gloucester, Munster 31, Gloucester 0. Game 3, the most entertaining game of the bunch, and a very, very high-scoring affair. We have Toulon versus Bath. We have Toulon 45, Bath 34. And Game 3 is the game we're going to look at. So we have Toulon in the black ink and Bath in the blue ink. And what you're going to see from this stat line here, and kind of what you can see from the score line, is pretty much this is a very even game between 2 good teams. So there's only 9 points between both teams here. Yeah, it's 2 scores, but 9 points really isn't that big of a difference. And you're gonna see pretty close game from a scoring perspective, and the stat line shares that as well. So yes, possession and territory are skewed towards Toulon, but it's not very heavily skewed. Possession is 54% for Toulon to 46% for Bath, and then territory is 51% for Toulon, 49% for Bath. So that's pretty even between the 2 teams there. Tackles made, again, very even between the 2 teams. 117 for Toulon, 129 for Bath. So, you would suspect Bath to make a few more tackles because the possession was favoring Toulon during the course of the game. Post-contact meters, very equal as well. 211 for Toulon to 220 for Bath. So Bath a little bit better about getting that front football when they had it. Turnovers won, very comparable. Turnovers lost, very comparable. The only thing that could be said that might make the biggest difference when the scores are like this, penalties conceded. Toulon only had 5 penalties conceded to, again, Bath very well disciplined this game. 8 penalties for Bath. So both teams very well disciplined, not a high penalty count. However, when it's at this level and at this stage, just a couple more penalties given away from one team to another could be what creates the biggest difference. Again, this is only a 9-point game, not very much between the 2, and it could just be 3 extra penalties for Bath that gave Toulon that extra edge. So a very close game, very good game this week, very high scoring, very entertaining. And with that being said, here is the standings for Pool 2. So we have Bath sitting up top. And the only reason why Bath are sitting up top is they got bonus points week 1, or round 1, I should say, round 1 and round 2. Every other team only got a bonus point 1 week, not both weeks. So as it stands, Bath is up top. Gloucester, Edinburgh are the teams to be relegated and not moving on. But 2 more rounds left, and we'll just see how things pan out. Moving on, we've got Pool 3 here. So game 1 was Leicester-Leinster. Leicester 15, Leinster 23. Game 2 was Stormers versus La Rochelle. Stormers 42, La Rochelle 21. Last but not least, the bloodbath of the week here. Game 3 was Harlequins 68, Bayonne 14. So the game that we're going to look at is the one close game of the week in Pool 3 here, which is the Leicester-Leinster game. And honestly, my biggest takeaway here is, yes, it was a good effort defensively by Leicester, but there's also a lot to be left. There's a lot to be desired, and kind of, for lack of a better term, a lot of meat that got left on the bone for Leinster this week. Not the most efficient offensive performance for Leinster this week. So let's look at the stats here. If we look at both possession and territory, possession skewed towards Leinster, territory heavily skewed towards Leinster. So Leinster has the ball more and is playing in Leicester's half more. However, they're only winning this game by 8 points. If we look a little further down, tackles made, 161 for Leicester to just 82 for Leinster. So again, a huge, solid defensive effort by Leicester. Again, a little bit to be desired by Leinster, because if we look a little further down, this is post-contact meters here. This is not total meters gained. This is just meters that was gained after a tackle was attempted. 92 post-contact meters made for Leicester to 358 for Leinster. And you mean to tell me that Leinster only won by 8 points? There's a huge difference here, and you would figure if Leinster is able to get that much post-contact meters, that they would be able to just blow this game wide open and be scoring left and right. However, there is one thing that did hurt Leinster this game, and it was turnovers lost. Turnovers lost, 13 for Leicester to 21 for Leinster. 21 times Leinster is turning the ball over back to Leicester, completely ruining, completely stopping any offensive momentum they had. I think that was the big Achilles heel for Leinster this week, was just not holding on to the ball and coughing the ball up and giving it back to Leicester. Because every other stat on here showcases a very, very dominant Leinster team. I just think they had too many turnovers and was not able to take advantage of their dominant performance. Now, with all of that being said, let's look at the standings here, or the positions for Pool 3. Stormers, Leinster, top of the table here, both 2-0. Both got 1 week of bonus points, so that's where they're both at 9 there. And then we have Harlequins, Stade Rochelet or La Rochelle, both with 1 win, 1 loss. And then the bottom 2 teams are Leicester and Bayonne or Bayonne, both at 0-2 right now. Again, 2 more rounds to be played. We'll see if this is the rankings that hold, or maybe Leicester and Bayonne can get on a winning streak, and make it into the top 4. Now, the last pool, Pool 4, all of these games were absolute blowouts. Game 1 was Bordeaux Scarlets. We had Bordeaux 50, Scarlets 21. Game 2, Northampton versus the Vodacom Bulls. We have Northampton 50, Bulls 5. Game 3, Bristol versus Pau or Section Paloise. Bristol 61, Pau 12. None of these games were terribly close. Very dominant games by the, I believe, 3 home teams. So the game that I decided to look at was the Northampton Bulls game. And honestly, you would not really think that this game would have been such a heavy blowout. There's a couple stats here that I guess kind of stick out to me as Yeah, that kind of showcases Northampton was just incredibly dominant. Territory, defenders beaten, clean breaks are the stats that I kind of see as, defining stamps on Northampton being the dominant team. So territory, hugely skewed and in favor of Northampton. Northampton had 69% of the territory to just 31% for the Bulls. Huge difference there. Northampton did have a little bit of a possession favor, and boy, did they use it, because they were just camped down in the Vodacom Bulls half, almost start to finish this entire game. And if we jump all the way down to defenders beaten and clean breaks, if I remember correctly, Northampton scored about 7 or 8 tries. They had 18 defenders beaten, which led to 9 clean breaks or 9 line breaks. And again, they had 7 or 8 tries scored. 9 line breaks, 9 clean breaks, that led directly to 7 or 8 tries scored. That is huge offensive efficiency by Northampton this week. Very strong performance by Northampton. And when round 3 for the Investec Cup comes around, the Bulls will be very much looking to have a bounce back game, because this is an embarrassing one. And here we have the standings for Pool 4. So the top 3 teams are all 2-0. Northampton, Bordeaux, Bristol, all 2 wins, no losses. Northampton, Bordeaux have gotten bonus points round 1 and round 2. Bristol just happened to get bonus points this round 2. Scarlets, Vodacom Bulls, Poe or Section Palawas are all sitting 0-2. However, Scarlets have a better points differential than the Bulls do at the moment, so that's why Scarlets are 4, Bulls are 5. Again, like I've been saying for all of these slides with the rankings on them, there's 2 rounds left, so we shall see how everything pans out, and maybe there'll be a little shakeup in the rankings as time goes on. So that's it for this week. Thank you everybody for tuning in and watching the video. If you liked the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and again, thanks for watching the video. I will be back next week with the URC. Have a good one, and see you next time.